I had not planned on going live on both YouTube and Instagram, but that's what's happening. So I switched it up really, really quickly. I don't like this. Y'all give me a second, please. Give me a second. I got hot so quick. My apologies, y'all. I gotta be comfortable. I gotta be comfortable. But pieces to start with the Star Blooms. I wanted to come on because I wanted to share something that I just process and receive. And I think it's going to be so dope for a lot of people because I know that a lot of the times we're all processing and going through similar things. I'm just going to talk about my particular thing. So, my thought process is this moment is based off of your current circuit. So, big ups to my pops. This is basically me. I was sitting with spirit and I was meditating, and they used an analogy of me and my father when I was younger, and how my dad was an electrician, and he's still here. So my dad, he is an electrician. He doesn't do it anymore. He hasn't been doing it recently. So when we were younger, he would basically like take me with him to like wire, you know, the houses, and I would be able to like see him working and just like in his element. And it's been something that's always stuck with me because some of the information, it was so like detailed. You could tell when somebody really, really love what they do because as they're doing it, they could explain it to you in a way. And I was a kid at this time, but it's like it's still stuck with me. But what Source had basically poured into me was it's like a lot of times we get guidance on how it is that we are to be in the place that we are at. So wherever you may find yourself to be at, sometimes you just might send out intentions, set out prayers, say, "Hey, I would like to know like what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What do I need to do at this moment? How is it that I need to be at this moment?" And that's what I was asking. And a lot of times, not all the time, but some of us have this habit of asking the same question multiple times in hopes of like getting a better task or what we may perceive as an easier task to do because we might feel like we're coming into layers of restriction or it may not necessarily be moving the way that we want it to move. Some of these tasks may not necessarily be as perceived as easy, you know, depending on what it is, right? And then sometimes we just might be not willing to be in a predicament to where we could see through it. And when I received my message tonight, they basically were so loud and were like, "Hey, you keep these steps that we've actually provided to you, and this is what you're to do." Sometimes we're wanting to see into the future. Sometimes we are, too engrossed in the past that we don't allow ourselves to be present and seeing what we could actually provide to this specific moment, to ourselves, and to whatever it is that we're working towards, right? And we'll keep on asking questions. And so it's like, hey, like I gave you the instructions on what you could be doing. And instead of you deciding because it was a task too difficult to complete in one day, you didn't think that you needed to do it. But that's not how it works. You got to be able to create these steps. You got to create a system that helps you complete the task that you've been provided because you won't be able to bypass where you're contributing at to get to a place that you feel like will make it easier for you to make your contribution. Like you have to be willing to show up right at where you're at. And the thing that really, really like stood out with me was knowing that it's something that I have to keep with me. Sometimes we don't recognize that the things that are going to keep us in alignment, the things that are going to keep us going, the things that's going to keep us moving forward and actually keeping the promise that has been made over us, even if it's just your desires, even if it's you just wanting better for yourself, even if it's just you wanting to experience something better for yourself, even if it's you wanting a different story. Like, as long as you keep that with you, but also keep the things that you are to contribute to it, you'll have a better way at showing up and a better way at being while you're in the midst of like walking through your path. The thing that popped out coming back to like my dad's so dope. Especially when, like I said, when it comes to something that he loves, when he would talk to me, it's just that like I was so young, but he explained electrical wiring to me in a way to where I've even been able to like apply this to like houses and stuff that we've had to be able to make stuff make sense even better, than my husband at times. But Source basically said it's just like, hey, this is like when Pops was telling you all of this stuff as far as the wiring is concerned, like this energy that you have right now is for your current circuit. And what we might not get is that sometimes we've been provided a certain layer of ourselves and say like you just got enough energy for you to do A, B, and C. This is all you needed to do today. This is what you needed your energy for. Sometimes we find ourselves being out here doing A, C, F, G, H, and all of this other stuff. And sometimes you can't get around it. Stuff happens. However, if you're not intending for you to be on your schedule, anything could come into your vortex and dictate to you what your day and what your time should be. Source was like, you got to be in a situation to where you're comfortable enough receiving that you already have the things that you're supposed to be doing. I've already provided you with these things. You have to just like actually focus on you being worthy of making this contribution. You even have to know the value of it. Sometimes things like getting proper rest, that is like a breath of like, because it's like, I do my best. I do my best. And a lot of times that's what we have to try to do. And we can't be too hard on ourselves. But I could get better sleep. And that could be just like for somebody else. It might not even be anything crazy. It might just be you creating the proper schedule so you actually are getting to bed at a certain time. It's things like that that some of us have to work on. You might not think that doing these small things that pour into you, that say, I love myself, that say, I'm here, I'm present with myself, matter or they make a difference. You might feel like it's not going to be like a big deal, but oh my God, it's like I'm still in the position of receiving it. I'm only a couple days in. You get what I'm saying? However, still being in a position to where you start to create these boundaries of how you are loving yourself. It's not really boundaries to keep other people away that we're always wanting to focus on. A lot of times you have to focus on how it is that you are showing up for you. And that's what my team was like able to pour into me tonight. They like, it's you got enough circuit for this moment in this space right here, right now. So if you deciding that you want to be something for this, something for that, you might have not been actually seated for all of these side tasks that you're trying to do. You might be wanting to put yourself on too many plates. You might be spreading yourself out too thin. They didn't say it like that. They literally just used it as the reality of how wiring a house. Like a lot of times when my dad would go into the properties, it would be sometimes the people would be wanting to pay just for, you know, cosmetic fixes and to put, new boxes in to change the faces on the outside of the plug. But then some of the plugs he would get to, he would end up having to take it out and he would tell me, like, it doesn't matter if I change out this box or not, because this stuff is so outdated on the inside here. I'm gonna have to pull all of this out. And I'm not even gonna be able to actually do this because I'm gonna have to, like, rewire all of this. And he would go through it and he would tell me how certain wires was okay for us to touch while he had the face and everything lifted off of it, and he's sitting, he's threading it through, and he would make me aware of how the power actually came from the ground. It's like source will use everything. That's why you can never devalue anything in anyone in your life. Source can use anything for you to get clarity. Okay. Some of the outlets wouldn't even get power until they've actually been grounded to send the power through into the house to get it to that specific outlet. And then sometimes there would be certain spaces where it would get most of the energy. So then I would have to move back. But it would be these big boxes where you would get most of the energy going through her, and then everything else would kind of trail off of this one spot. Source made me aware. It's like you might be wanting to go to this next spot because you see, you feel, and you believing for, and you trusting, and you having faith for this thing. And it's like stuff's been hard. Stuff has been hard. Things is getting hard. Things can be difficult. Not hard in a way of like, oh, life is just, but like life be lifing. Life be lifing. Things be getting busy. Energies is energies. Like, and then just like growing pains, just period. You know what I mean? You go through these processes where you want to get to the thing that you're believing for, that you're working towards. And it gets to a point to where you want to move on to the next spot. A lot of us recognize that we need to start making updates. We need to start making changes, and we start doing these things, and we start, adding meditation. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And you want to do like, the small, gentle, surface level, sometimes cosmetic updates. When in reality, some of us are having to recognize that there's going to be some root pulling. You're going to have to actually go beyond, just the surface of it. You're going to have to go beyond actually pulling up just this outlet. It might not necessarily just be this outlet. It might actually be the total foundation. Literally, it would be some properties that my dad would take me into, and it would be situations where one outlet would be out, and then another outlet would have like faulty wiring, and then he would open it up, and it's like all of this stuff's outdated. So it's just like a lot of us haven't been on our insides in a long time. We haven't actually been checked into ourselves in a long time. We haven't been connected to ourselves intimately. Like, I know me, like I know how I feel, I know where I'm at, I know what I'm thinking, I know what's actually playing out in my life. A lot of us haven't been to that space with ourselves. And it's not so far fetched to say it. Some people feel like certain stuff is just common sense, but it's not so common. And that's what I get to like, I get the opportunity to be aware of that, being in service, allowing myself to be of service, and just being in a position to where I'm willing to provide like whatever it is that I was able to work through by coming to these layers of understanding. Because I remember at points when I didn't understand this stuff, I never would have thought the way how a house could be wired could make sense to the reasonings of why I would want to not rush ahead versus wanting to be able to be cool with, being still at a rate that's necessary for everything to be addressed. You don't notice when you are in a manner of being in a house all that it took to construct the house. You don't notice this. Like you have no clue, you know, what it took to construct the house because you are just being in this house. Some of us arrive to a location after it's already been put up, after it's already been created, after it's already been pieced together. And this is for all of us, okay? However you want to look at it. You arrive to this house after it's already been put up, all the pieces is here, and you start to want this house to do things to you. You start to want to experience this house in a certain way. You start to want to do this. You start to using this house. You start to being in this house. And it gets to a point to where you're ready to expand. And sometimes when you start to expand it, you might kick down this wall. You might tear down this wall. You might open up this space. You might figure out, dang, it's like molded on the inside of this. We're gonna have to take this out. It's this is messed up in here. There's no actual sturdiness. There's no actual foundation that's holding this up. This would have fell through if we wouldn't have. Like sometimes you start to figure out that there's cracks and leaks in your foundation, physically, mentally, emotionally. And you go into these spaces and you allow yourself to be in a predicament to where you get the maintenance that's needed. And going back to my pops, he would always say that you could always tell when you was in a home where it hadn't been properly maintained, because you would go through each outlet and you would see the different faces on each outlet. You would go through each outlet and you would see how, there was so much patchwork being done. You know, he would always say that in order for it to just work the way that you really want it to work, you really just gonna have to you're gonna have to start over. You're gonna have to be able to go back to the basics and do that. And a lot of times, there's no a lot of freaking times we go through processes making huge purchases that affect us in ways, okay? And I hope y'all hearing everything that I'm putting down. We make huge purchases that affect us in ways that end up costing us because we've actually added this addition to ourselves in a rate of wanting to be whatever without actually considering our capacity to be able to maintain this purchase that we've made. Okay. So imagine you done went out and you done bought a jacuzzi for your house, right? But you never even actually checked your wiring. Now you got to actually rewire your whole house just to get to this one space so you could fix this jacuzzi in the house. Sometimes a lot of us are operating on empty. Sometimes a lot of us are operating on faulty wires. Sometimes a lot of us ain't even getting no power because we weren't grounded. Sometimes a lot of us is not actually getting no energy because we haven't allowed the proper connections to be made. Sometimes we don't recognize how we're supposed to be in a situation because we're always trying to move forward to the next situation. And you don't even understand how much this layer of space that's being provided to you and allotted to you is necessary because you in preparation of being able to have the capacity to do exactly what it is that you need to do. And a lot of us don't understand that because we're not actually willing to actually honor and respect how vital preparation is and what it really, really means for you to be in a position to where you operating at your highest frequency. Sometimes we say stuff, but we don't actually recognize the work that it takes for you to get to the position to where you're doing the things that you actually been calling in. Sometimes we just be saying it, but when you really, really moving and working towards some stuff, you got to be one in a position to where you understand at this point you are insured. And a lot of us don't know this because we do a lot of stuff, y'all. People, POCs, we love, we do some stuff sometimes. We be janky. We buy stuff, we'll be getting the, 2-year warranty on it. I don't be always getting it, y'all. I go to Target, they be offering this always, hey, you want to pay? Like, nah, I ain't gonna pay that. Don't even matter. I'll just get a new one. We get so used to not being insured that we don't actually know how to represent the stuff that really, really, really matters and actually has value to us. So when things come into play and things like, I don't know, needing a mental day, needing to be able to actually have some time off to yourself, needing to be able to actually have things in place where you're able to, you know, do the things that you need to be done, to be able to buy the things that you need to buy for yourself, to be able to Invest in the classes, invest in the programs, invest in the training, like do the things. Like sometimes we don't actually think enough to create circumstances to where we are insured. So when we get that space that says, hey, you burnt out, you got to stop, you don't have the means to be able to do what it is that you need to do, or something else, vice versa. It's like sources like this is a different situation. A lot of us are right now in a situation of, in a season, in a space of preparation. You are preparing to be in your highest timeline. You're preparing to be in your highest frequency, the highest expression of yourself. You literally are you doing all of this stuff? You working towards all of these ways of learning how to love you differently. You working in these ways of learning how to understand you, to be with you in different ways. This is not just myself. I know that there's a lot of people out here who are desiring these things for ourselves. And in these layers of preparation, because each time you get to one space, you are literally going through life being at that rate to be able to just learn how to love you in a new way. So it's like you always have more ways to love you. You're always going to do something different. You're always going to be something different. And instead of wanting to hurry up and be that new thing, you get to be in a position to where you allow yourself to be at peace. You allow yourself to be at peace. Recognize that you are insured, that you covered. It's a difference from being covered by source and being covered by insurance. Insurance might only qualify for, Econo Lodge. You get what I'm saying? But if you riding with Source, you might actually be out here, at the Hilton, at the West, at the W. You might be able to get at regions. Like you don't have to be in a position to where you have to allow yourself to force yourself to move ahead because of what you want something to look like. When on the reality of things, there is still some work that could be done. There's still some connections that could be made. There's still some healing that could be done. Sometimes we want to hurry up and move, but sometimes we got to be comfortable at being present with ourselves and knowing that the circuitry, knowing that the energy that we have is needed to be able to utilize and actually create the change. That's what it means when it be like co-creating with Source. Like I'm doing my part and Source got the other half. I'm doing what I could do, and Source is gonna come through and follow through with the alley hoop. Like I don't miss because I'm doing everything that I done been told to do. I'm doing everything in my power for me to show up for myself. And regardless of where I'm at, regardless of how I'm in this space, Source has the other part. Sometimes Source hasn't came and shown up in the space that you need most because you haven't actually put forth your contribution. And it ain't so easy. Sometimes it's going to take you creating steps, like Source told me today. Now, not be a task where you could finish it. Excuse me, y'all be burping, but that's also spirit saying you telling the truth. But I want y'all to understand, like sometimes you might have to create a schedule where you put things down. This is what I need to do today. Now that I have this energy, I'm going to use it and I'm going to do this. Now that I'm in this space, I'm going to use this energy and I'm going to do this. Like some days you might need to like just cool out and not do nothing. But don't just allow yourself to be in a position to where you're not recognizing where you're at and what value you have already present within you already. You don't know that you're abundant because you don't recognize that you're not as broke as you think. We just don't look at everything as we can look at it. Real currency is time. The richest people in the world have all the money. But a lot of times when they get to a certain age, when they in a position to where they're not about to be anymore, the money isn't really the thing that they're asking for. They're asking for more time to be with themselves, more time to make other decisions. So if you recognize that you have a certain allotment of time and this is vital currency for you, you could create steps for yourself throughout this space, throughout this currency that you are abundant in, and actually apply it to your bottom line, the things that make you be able to be at peace and be rest assured knowing that Source is going to come through. if you don't have no assurances because you so used to relationships, you so used to friendships, you so used to jobs, you so used to whatever you've experienced in whatever circumstance with other people, that you don't know how to have faith in your relationship that you're creating with your higher self and with the most high. Like, you don't have the ability to actually be in a predicament to where you say, hey, I'm believing for this, not just because everybody's saying that this is what I should be doing, but like, I seen this message, I caught these synchronicities, I peep all of these layers of, information that has been provided to me. I received this wisdom. I'm in this predicament because I followed through with what I was prompted to do. Like, I see where you taking me. I know that all of these things have been happening for a reason. I see what y'all saying. I see how y'all showing up. So it's like, no, I haven't had that big thing. But even in me not receiving the big thing, it's not the big thing that I'm waiting for. Each piece, each piece is what's necessary for me. And I'm recognizing that sometimes y'all we be wanting the material thing to come through. But when you towards anything, which we should all be working towards something, because what are we here for? So it's like, in working towards anything, progress is progress. Like, progress is progress. First, you're gonna have, scratch work. Sometimes you're gonna have like you some scribbles on a piece of paper. Maybe you might have like you a little quick little sketch. Then it might go to a prototype. Then after the prototype, it might go to the first trial, second trial, so on and so forth. Progress is progress. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, if you recognize that you're making progress, and then you also understand that throughout all of this time, maybe I might have been doing patchwork to myself. Maybe I might have came out of this relationship, and instead of me really allowing myself to love me, to know what it is to be with me this new rate after this experience, I might have allowed myself to put a band-aid over my heart and move into another situation. Maybe after that situation, instead of me allowing me to heal me from that particular situation and the previous, because I never healed from that, I decided to put another band-aid on, and so on and so forth. Some of us have been in a circumstance where we haven't been well maintained. So we're gonna have to go through and pull up some roots. We're gonna have to pull up some wiring. We're gonna have to create some layers so there's no faulty wires, no faulty connections to source. Like, when you receiving and being a channeler, it's so important about how clear your channel is because of the quality of the message that's coming through, because of the importance, the integrity of who it is that you're speaking to. So just imagine if you got faulty wiring. Just imagine the misconnections. You're gonna say some shit. So it's like, one, being authentic. I ain't perfect. So I don't have no problem coming on here. Yeah, I messed up there. And I be hearing myself, I be saying like, dang, I shouldn't have said that. Like, why would I say that? But I also know that I'm just being myself. And sometimes it'd be the hardest thing for people to be. And a lot of times when you being yourself, you find yourself being in a predicament to where you've drawn out the opposite of what it is, just because energy, if you magnetize it, you're gonna call in some stuff that you don't want, and you're gonna call in what you want. It is what it is. Even in the presence of the thing that you not wanting to pair with, even in the energy of the thing that you really, really don't desire, being yourself and continuing to hold that current, continue to hold that frequency, to continue to hold that note, to be present in that space with yourself, to continue to breathe at that rate with yourself, to continue to believe in that light for yourself, to continue to speak over yourself and affirm for yourself. A lot of times it could become a situation to where you might short circuit, you might fall out, you might not necessarily actually be able to hold the current, you might not be able to hold the frequency because you're trying to put yourself in all of these places instead of being assured and insured that where you at is exactly where you're supposed to be. Sometimes you need to allow yourself to do vital purges and to really, really, really focus on what is serving me in this season. How can I show up for myself in this season? How am I being too hard on myself in this season? Like, what is the goal? What's the desire? What are we doing here? Is it anything that needs to be done? Is it okay if I just give myself this time to take a break? Is it okay if I just give myself time? And it's like, even asking these questions, asking yourself if it's okay. A lot of times we feel things are preposterous, like I was saying, preposterous and ridiculous. I was using these words because it was better than me saying curse words on something that I was processing. And I'm thinking to myself, the only thing that really is preposterous is knowing that you need a break and not giving it to yourself and making yourself try to show up at rates of perfection because you have this desire to create this thing that you're going to be able to benefit from in the future when you need you right now in this moment. And a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to be for ourselves in the present space because we be so fixated and so invested in the future that we don't be ready to actually walk through those steps with ourselves. Be gentle, take a break, be okay with the fact that you need to pull up some stuff. Now this ain't surface level, so we not just doing no cosmetic upgrades. We not just gonna put some makeup on this. We not just gonna, throw a band-aid over this. Your heart broke. Be okay with sitting with yourself and allow yourself to sit so long that you actually see your heart growing and you recognize that something can't grow if it's done broke. That means that now where something may have came to hurt me is actually stretching me, is actually expanding me, is actually growing me, and it's not limiting me. And as I grow, I have the ability to be in a position to where I recognize a lot of times we be wanting the external thing, and sometimes sometimes your partnership be sore. Sometimes you actually be like this with the Most High. If you allow yourself to be in this position, don't recognize what other people have going on. Sometimes you got to stay focused on you. Yeah, I did 10, you know, I wrote 10 this day. I might write 10 this day. I might not be able to write this day. Yeah, I might, need to do these protocols on this day. I might need to do these protocols on this day. I'm gonna need to take a break for the next week because this is just my body needs, you got to be able to be okay with putting in place the things that help you be supported, be able to be in a predicament to where you getting beyond what it is that's actually occurring. So you could be able to utilize the energy that's there for you. Sometimes we can't get more of what it is that we're desiring to have more of only because we didn't clear things out, only because we didn't make room, only because we didn't create a firm protection, a firm structure to cover the things that we're calling in. It is nothing more crazier than asking for abundance of something, but then not actually putting in place, how am I to cover this abundance that I'm receiving? How am I to actually, ensure what it is that I'm receiving? I want Source to be so close with me that Source actually allocates where the funds is supposed to go at. Don't just give me no means, but allow me to know where they best utilize it so I could be in a predicament to where I'm not actually just like wanting to rush ahead or even not be willing to honor the past. That was a memory that came to me thinking about my father and how we used to go, and do his job technically because he had his own business doing electricity, so it's like how we would be able to do that. That's a memory. That's technically something from the past. Yeah, my daddy's still living. I could call my daddy up and say, hey, Pops, I had this thought process, but so it's like, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this memory that you had and apply this to how it is that you're wanting to hurry up and go ahead. How it is that you're asking for this expansion. You wanting to take this house and expand this space and allow this space to be something that could be this and to do this and to do that. You want to make these major upgrades, but you haven't even actually checked the foundation. You might have not actually recognized that you done did patchwork on all of these things for all of these years. Hold your horses. Be okay with being in a position to where you actually are in preparation of what it is. Two things happened tonight. One, I got confirmation you get to have it. And that's the thing that a lot of us need to recognize. Delay does never mean stalled out. Delay does never mean, hey, it's not going to happen. Sometimes things are just put on pause, they put on hold because we in a position to where we need to actually be doing the things that it is that we could do versus waiting for something else to come in play to make it easy for us to do what it is that we need to do. That was hard for me to get that out. Um, but yeah, like you might not need to do no expansion just yet. Sometimes you might need to be in a position to where you recognize before I put this foundation through this, before I kick this wall in, before I break this down, I'm gonna make sure that everything that's flowing through her is flowing properly. I'm gonna make sure I go through her and pick up a lot of, these dead roots. I'm gonna pick up these weeds over here. I'm gonna pick up this over here. I'm gonna do some internal cleansing. I'm actually gonna make sure I'm well maintained. Sometimes we be wanting to do yearly checkups with you. Like, bro, when you dealing with your mental capacity, your thought process, your heart, when you dealing with your life, how you showing up in your family, if you've been in a situation to where you've been constantly like plagued with going through shit and you just find yourself wanting to just be at a different rate with yourself, a lot of times you might not be aware of what you're not aware of until you know. And when that happens, be graceful always with yourself. Like, you're not the only person. Some of the people who you think got it together, they don't. So it's like never look at nobody else's situation. Be cool with being present with yourself where you are. All right, Source. All right. Not only was this faulty wiring, this was also outdated equipment. This was also patchwork. Like I had like 15 different construction workers in this one house. Okay, and all of these construction workers never communicated with each other. None of these people ever actually went over the other person's work to make sure that they did what they needed to do. Sometimes we've been in this cycle with ourselves where we've allowed ourselves to be, especially as women, ran through, occupied, okay, done gave eviction notice, all type of stuff done happened, and we continuing to move on and go through life as if things is nah. Sometimes you need to put a construction like this is under construction. Pause, Captain. Like pause. Source was like, we were never actually meant to be in a predicament to where we were treated the way that we were treated ever, ever, like ever, regardless of what anybody feels like they went through. We are, as women, some of the most vital and precious, precious gifts, precious jewels to the Most High. And a lot of us have been mishandled. A lot of us haven't been loved properly. A lot of us haven't been taken care of properly. And if you're in a situation to where you done created a relationship with Source and you believe in God for taking you out of this situation, you know that you putting yourself in a predicament to where you courting with faith. You believing for something, you imagining something, you petitioning for something. And if you smart enough, you doing the things that you know that you need to do. So it's like you get to this predicament to where you still might be getting the pushback. So it's like disrespect still might be showing up. Disregard might be showing up. People that don't understand, having to try to get to the position to where you can work that dream job, having to get the means to be able to actually invest in the things that you stuff might be showing up that make you feel like, this is not working. Like, what am I doing wrong? What am I supposed to do? So it's like you need to be rest assured in what it is that you've already went through. Sometimes we ain't able to see where it is that we at because we wanted so badly to rush forward ahead. But if I could look back and actually find value in gentle moments, being able to be with my dad when he was an electrician working on these properties and houses, those was something, like I said, I never would have thought that Source could have taken something like that and applied it to something spiritual, applied it to something that I'm processing, applied it to something that I'm being in, and allowed me to be able to get the clarity, to get the understanding. It's value all around us. We have opportunity to show up for ourselves at all times. But if we're not doing what it is that we love for us in the space that we've decided that things are going to be different, sometimes we'll actually allow ourselves to be utilized in ways because we haven't actually went back in and taken ownership of the things that we were never actually supposed to relinquish. Like you were supposed to be taken care of at this rate. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter how life has been to you. It doesn't matter what you've experienced. There's always been a need for women to have a certain quality of life and existence. And a lot of us don't want to have this conversation because there's this timid thing about, oh, and this. Any real man wouldn't have a problem with me saying this stuff. All real men desire for women to be at this rate. And Source is really, really, really like letting me know, regardless of where it is that you feel like you at, you could be in a predicament to where whatever it is that you need is actually what it is that you have. But in order for you to be okay with getting that expansion, in order for you to be okay with getting that connection, in order for you to be okay with actually being in this space where you can honor what it is and protect what it is that's coming to you, you're going to have to be willing, one, to release and surrender what it is that already was that wasn't. Okay? You're gonna have to move back away from the thing that you wanting to keep on holding on to. And you're gonna have to be able to be comfortable at being at a place where you receive. A lot of women nowadays are hyper masculine. A lot of women have had to be men in situations. Not for nothing. This is not a universal conversation. Most of the time it's POCs because of how stuff has been set up. It ain't so horrible. Life ain't so bad. That's just one perspective. And stories are always going to be like this. So you have to be able to take things with a grain of salt and only apply it as you see fit. Don't take what I'm saying. Go listen to your mom. Pray to your ancestors. You'll be able to process it at your rate. I'm just giving y'all like from where I'm at. Okay. So it's like we have this opportunity at this point to just say, this is what I'm desiring. This is what I could do to contribute to what it is that I'm desiring. I'm not going to put myself in a predicament to where I'm living at this rate. This ain't about being prim and proper or feet up, not having to do nothing. This is like the actual true structure that's actually coming into place. There's a shift that's happening to where things that weren't are the things that need to be. But this isn't a shift that actually takes anybody off the table. The thing that a lot of systems had set up before was either these people get left out or these people get left out. Sometimes it needs to be a predicament to where we could actually look at the table and see the value that everybody brings. And when you could do that, you could be able to be in a position to where you have the opportunity to actually address all the things on the table. You're not just trying to cover things up. You're not putting band-aids over stuff. You're not trying to force yourself to hurry up and get over things. You actually allowing yourself to understand something fully before you try to move past it. You recognizing that you get to go through stuff and you don't have to make yourself be this, robot. Okay. We get to love ourselves. So I wanted to share that. Sometimes we might be wanting to have this big dose of energy that allows us to be able to power up the world, to do the most amazing shit, to show up for everybody, to be superheroes, to love everybody, to, have all the time in the world, to have all the money in the world for everybody. We want to do all of this stuff and we want to do it now, right? Sometimes the level, the rate, the circuit, the energy that you flowing with is exactly for what Source done already told you to do. You were supposed to be doing the thing that you've been dreaming for. You weren't supposed to wait until you got enough money. You were supposed to start when I gave you the idea. You had that stuff in the closet. You had that, like you were supposed to have done it. I've been waiting on you. So I've been waiting on you to do the thing that you knew that you could do. And instead of you thinking, oh, I need to get these type of lessons, oh, I need to do this, and I'm not capable, but you have the capacity for the outcome and the desire of what it is that you actually calling towards you. And sometimes we don't know how to value what it is that we have because we're not willing to sit with ourselves long enough. So we got to be cool with not wanting to run and rush into expansion and allow the growth to sometimes be present with us in that space that we're in. Sometimes we just need to heal how we are with our heart. Sometimes we need to open up. Sometimes we need to learn how to speak to ourselves differently. Sometimes we need to learn how to speak to other people differently. Sometimes we need to finally let some shit go so we can get chips off our back so we're not so heavy. You can't really receive the abundance if your heart's closed. So it's like, I hope y'all feeling me. I hope y'all hearing me. I just wanted to share that. Allow yourself to be at the rate of what it is that you desiring for yourself at this time, but do it intentionally with the intention of what it is that you're going toward. I can't wait like to really, really like get into all of the details. There was so many nuggets, but the biggest thing that I got from it is that you got a different relationship when you're dealing with the Most High. You're not doing this by yourself. Allow Spirit to be your co pilot, and allow them to really do what it is that's necessary and allow them to show up for you. Don't think that you're doing it by yourself. When you recognize that you're not doing it by yourself, you got time for stuff like, hey, I got the means for a babysitter if a babysitter is necessary. Why? Because Source don't cover that for me. I got the means for me to be able to get on the plane and get to some water because I might need to be by the water. Source gonna cover that for me. That's the type of quality life. That's what I'm talking about. It's not material. This is like this spiritual. This is real. This is real life. This is very real. Sometimes you need to be able to have, days where you just say, hey, I'm cutting connection off because I've been in this, input output system for too long. I might need a day where I spend time out in the forest or some stuff. Maybe I didn't think about this stuff before, but this is important to me. And you don't know it's important until stuff gets bad. And we don't have to wait until stuff gets bad. We can make sure that we well maintain. We could make sure that we well actually address and we taking care of ourselves. We're not doing yearly check-ins with ourselves anymore. We need to be present day by day, moment by moment with ourselves. So we're not actually being hijacked. So the energy that we have, the things that we want to happen, the stuff that we need to be placing ourselves into, that it's allowing us to get there quicker because the focus is here. This is where the attention and the intention is going to. And I'm receiving me. So the more I receive me, the more I receive what spirit would want for me, the more I receive the support that I've like it makes sense that way. So I hope y'all have an amazing day. Continue to move towards what it is that you desire and allow yourself to love you enough to be in a position of actually just pouring into you at whatever rate it is that you find yourself to be at. Don't try to go after perfection. Allow yourself to be whatever it is that you're showing up as. Don't try to force nothing. Don't try to be too much. Be exactly what it is that you want. You know, sometimes it be difficult. It's okay if you're having a difficult time. Be gentle. But if you know that you've been sitting on some stuff, you better get to working. You better get to moving. You better get to petitioning, get to contributing. A lot of times we be the effect, we be the change that we've been waiting on. A lot of times, right where we live at, they be needing you. You in your neighborhood for a reason. Sometimes we just need to get up and get outside and walk our neighborhood. You might not even know how you could be helping or changing somebody's life by just being able to get out of the house and see what's going on outside your doors. So you can be able to actually see where you might not necessarily be giving to yourself. Sometimes interactions help you see that. Sometimes looking in the mirror helps you see what you might have not been seeing. Figure out whatever it is that you need and start applying it. Do it in steps if you need to. Write reminders, put alarms on your phone. Put yourself in a predicament to where you scheduling days off for you to be able to be with yourself, and yeah, I hope you have a dope day. Peace.